I've got 20 tools under $10 in this box, so we're gonna see if $10 can actually get you anything good these days. All right, we are gonna jump right in with one of the most unassuming, but also one of the most amazing tools in the lot. The plastic scraper with plastic razor blades. And the packaging on a lot of these is pretty ambiguous and unassuming, AKA straight from China. So we've got the orange plastic razor blades with the little blue scrapers. I actually love these things. I've been using these for several years now. I paid $5.68 for this one. So everything today is gonna be under $10, and I got everything on Amazon. All right, so this thing includes 4 plastic scrapers and 100 of these little plastic razor blades. And you might think, what in the world would you need a plastic razor blade for? Because shouldn't you just use a normal one? But the idea here is these won't scratch things. If you're trying to peel off stickers or goo or whatever on anything, you don't want to scratch, especially plastic, maybe glass, and even these are great for use on your car. Now, I've got a pack out that I recently bought. I wish this was under $10, wouldn't that be nice? But it's got a sticker on the back here, and I don't want a sticker on there, I just want to get rid of it. If you try to get it off with your finger, then it's like one of those that just kind of peels up. They've even got that little safety thing on it where it splits into multiple pieces, and it is just a pain in the butt. So getting a razor blade to get it off is the best way. But if I use a razor blade on this plastic, then it's gonna dig into it a bit here and there, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna grab this guy instead, and this will just come right off. But the best combo I've found is actually a hair dryer and then this guy. And then I can just use the blow dryer to heat up that sticker, and then it comes off like a dream. And you can just really go after it. That's the great thing, is that you can get a little bit more aggressive because you know you're not gonna scrape up your plastic. And just like that, the sticker and all the residue is gone. That's why I love these guys, and there's just a ton of uses for these. These are awesome. I think it makes sense to have some categories here. So let's start off the categories with scraping, because the first one was a good scraper. So our next tool is a set of putty knives. Let's check it out. So what we have is a 4-pack of putty knives. I bought this one for $7.50, and putty knives are great for scraping. Now these guys, gotta be honest, these seem pretty flimsy. You know, for $7.50, I think these will probably be great for just, you know, getting glue and just doing the nasty work, you know, that the stuff that you usually relegate your other putty knife to. Let me check in on my putty knife. And so here are my 2 most used putty knives. You can see this one's got all kinds of glue and nastiness on here. This one is a hide one. This one is nice and stiff. I just want to check the thickness of these. Let's see what this one is. So this one is 0.025 inches thick, pretty thin, whereas my hide here is twice that, 0.05 inches thick. And what about this little guy? 0.033, so right in between. So these are definitely cheap and flimsy. I guess that'd probably be my biggest concern, is I don't know how far that metal goes into the handle. That is the nice thing about this hide one. The metal goes all the way down to the end, and so it is, again, nice and stiff. I can't pull it apart, which is a good sign. But for under $2 a piece for these putty knives, these are gonna be just fine for really getting the nasty duty, and I can just toss these around and not really even care about them. All right, next up we are going to the slicing and cutting category, which I have to say is one of my favorites. And you'll see why in a little bit. So next up we have a ceramic knife cutter, and it's actually got nice packaging. I paid $9.18 for this one. This is a ceramic box cutter from Slice. Now the cool thing is, it is ceramic, and so it is finger safe. One thing we get a ton of is Amazon boxes, especially in this video. And so let's test it out, because I'm pretty sure this will do a good job cutting tape. Let's see. Okay, that seems to cut this just nice. But what about actually breaking down the cardboard? So can we cut through the cardboard with this guy? Because a regular box cutter, obviously, it's called a box cutter. Let's see. Okay. Not quite as easy as you know, a normal box cutter, but it does the job. Let's see about strips across the grain. So it kind of leaves a little bit there. So, you know, I don't know that this is perfect for cutting cardboard if you had a lot to do, but if in a pinch, what about paper? Ooh, that actually cuts paper quite nicely. I don't know why you'd be cutting paper with a utility knife, but if you needed to, you absolutely could. This would be perfect when I ask the kids to break down boxes. I can give them this and make sure they won't cut their fingers off. It even comes in some other fun colors if you don't like black and orange. Now, if you've watched any of my previous tools under $20 videos, you know that I love utility knives. So staying in the cutting category, the next two items is gonna be a 2-for-1, and this is gonna be a shootout. First up is the WorkPro Premium Utility Knife. I paid $8.99 for this, also has 10 blades. Coming in at just $1 more is a 4-pack of the Meepo folding utility knives. I bought this one for $9.99, and these also have 10 blades included. Now, I am somewhat of a utility knife connoisseur, as you can tell by my tool videos, so I think I'm a good one to talk on this. And frankly, after just holding these things, I didn't have to really open them. I can hands down say I would not recommend either of these. And here's why. Now, the WorkPro, it is just kind of your standard utility knife. It has the out and the back. It does have a quick release blade change with that little button there, and it is a very basic utility knife. I would not call this a premium utility knife. On the other hand, I have this Husky that is basically the exact same thing. It is also $9. But this one has a few features that the WorkPro doesn't, and that includes a rubber grip, so you get a little bit nicer feel. Has also a little hook down here, so it's a little bit easier to hold onto. It has that same quick release on the blade, and more importantly, it has on-tool storage for other blades. So if I dole out a blade, I can easily get to it right there. That, to me, is what a premium utility knife should have that's still under $10. So I would absolutely pick up that one before the WorkPro. Now for these guys, these just feel horrible. And right as soon as I picked one up, it is so light. I mean, I guess if you're looking for something that is super, super, super light, this could do that. We do again have the little quick change right here, which is nice. There's obviously no on-blade storage. And you can see the finishing up here is not nice, but just the weight, I do not like how that feels. I like, if I like a cutting utensil, I want it to have some heft. So even though these are less than $2.50 a piece, I would much rather have a higher quality knife. This is actually the Jerry Rig Everything folding knife, but this guy goes for like 15 bucks. It's on sale for 15 bucks right now. It's usually 20, and you can actually get a 2-pack of the Cobalt ones from Lowe's, 10 bucks a piece, and it just has a lot of heft to it. So much so, I wanted to weigh these to see what the difference is. The Meepo comes in at just under 66 grams, and the Jerry Rig Everything knife comes in at 151 grams. So this one is twice as heavy. I cannot undersell how cheap this feels in my hand. I would not recommend that. Get a 2-pack of the Cobalts. If you want the folding knife for 20 bucks, you can get the Husky for 10 bucks. Or if you want to step up a little bit, you can get one of the locking folding DeWalt's for around 15. I say spend a little bit extra money and get a solid utility knife. Stay away from both of those. Now, because I do love utility knives, I go through a lot of utility blades. And the next one is a 100-piece utility blade set from WorkPro. I paid $9.98 for this one. Definitely not sponsored by WorkPro or any other tool brand or anybody for that matter. Actually, I guess this is kind of sponsored by me. Fix This, Build That. If you like tools and you want to build some things with your tools, like this workbench or maybe some cabinets, go check out shop.fixthisbuildthat.com. We have all kinds of woodworking and storage and organization projects to help you make your workshop awesome. So go check it out. But back to the WorkPro, I really love these little dispensers, and this one is actually a little bit different. It's kind of interesting. So this is the one that I've been using forever, and I really like this one because you just push the blades out at the bottom, and then when you're done and you have a used one, you can put it in the top, and there's a little storage for that. But you do have to force that over with your finger, and sometimes they're stuck together if they have a little bit of oil on them or whatever. It gets a little bit hard, and I gotta get my fingernail in there to get it started. First world problems, but still a little bit annoying. So the cool thing about this one is it's got a little slide on the top that will eject your knife blade for you. So you just push that, you can push it back. I don't think it's spring loaded. I think you actually have to push up while pushing over. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a child safety lock type thing, you know? It's like you got to push up on the bottom to make it go. So the big knock, I think, though, is it doesn't have storage for your used blades. Because I really do like that. You just don't want to be throwing away your used blades in the trash can because, you know, they might cut through the bag and cut somebody. So I really like having the container for them. The price for the blades is great, and maybe you just have a little blade storage box that you 3D print or something, and you just put your used ones in there. But for 10 bucks for 100 blades and this cool little dispenser, I think that's pretty good. Now, next up is a tool that I have been needing because I lost my old one, and he came with a few buddies. It is a 3-piece magnetic tool pickup kit. I paid $9.99 for this one, and it basically has 3 of these little tools with magnets on it, and they've got different features. So this one is bendy, so I can reach it around into places and contort it, which I kind of like. It's kind of like one of those claws, which I believe I also lost. The next one is an extender. These are always helpful with a large magnet on it. And ooh, that's got quite a long reach on it. What is that? That's like 30 inches, so 2.5 feet. And lastly, we have the little guy, just a little teeny guy. Ooh, and it still goes out. Well, that's gotta be a good 18 inches at least. 20 inches, just for, you know, keeping in your pocket or something. These are so great. When you drop a screw or that little piece under your desk, you can go grab them. Let's see how much these will actually pick up. I'm not gonna get too scientific with this, but I've got a little bin of 5/16 washers, and we'll just see how much each one can pick up because you're not trying to pick up a ton of stuff with these normally. So the flexi guy, let's see here how that works. Not great, honestly. Looks like we got 16 grams. Let's go to our little guy next, and we'll do it at full extension, just for the full thing. I assume this is gonna be the lightest. All right, that's about all this one's gonna carry. That's almost 8 grams of washer, so half of the flexi one, which kind of makes sense. And I'm gonna guess that we're gonna get at least 32 grams off of this big one. Ooh. Oh yeah, that's a nice size little haul right there. Ooh, only 27 grams, but there you go. I think these are awesome because you don't need them often, but when you do need them to find that little bolt and you don't wanna reach your arm under there, you got something to do it. Now, honestly, I just bought it for the extendable ones, and having a nice big one and then a little tiny one seemed like a good idea. I don't think I'll be using this one very often, but you know, who knows? Maybe like going around the corner, maybe that actually might be something that when I need it, it's gonna be nice to have it. But either way, just nice little specialty tools to have around the shop. Now, this next tool, you might think about having it in the bathroom, but actually they are great in the shop, and that is a 6-piece set of tweezers. I paid $4.98 for this, so under $1 per. I've bought different tweezers before for electronics and just for, you know, pulling out splinters, but that is a really good price. So why don't we see how good the tips are? Because that's typically where a tweezer either excels or not. Now, I've got to say, I am actually surprised that we basically have one pair that is just kind of a flat nose that doesn't really have a pointed tip on it. These are great for pulling out electrical connectors without damaging things. And then the other 5 are basically all the same thing. We have one that's offset, and then we have 4 that are basically all just sharp, pointy guys, and they're just kind of different handles. But I'll tell you what, the points on these and the tips are razor sharp. They mostly all touch there at the tip, which is good. This one is a little offset, so the tips aren't quite lined up, but all these other ones look really good. The thing that I look for in tweezers is that they are nice and sharp and that you can really grab a hold of something. When you're trying to get that splinter out, it really helps to be able to just dig into the skin if you need to. Now, I'm sure these tips are gonna bend really easily, but I'm just gonna be using those for basically removing splinters other than those flat ones. And for $5, having a nice sharp set of tweezers and having multiples of them in the shop, you're gonna thank yourself the next time you get that splinter. The last tool in the grabbing category is the WorkPro 8-inch needle nose plier. I paid $9.99 for this, and I have a confession. I've actually already been using these. This is the one I picked up just for the packaging, but this was a pair that I actually bought, I don't know, it's probably 5-6 months ago now. And I have been using these, and that's also why I bought some more of the WorkPro, because I had a good experience with these. Nothing crazy to say about them. They don't do anything amazing other than grab stuff in tight places. The only thing that I have noticed is a little bit of staining here right around where that joint is. Actually, I just wiped that off. There must be something just kind of leaking out there in the lubrication of that little joint. Now you may wonder what makes these premium, and I think it's basically just the padding on the handles, because this is nice just versus like a plasti dipped handle. But also I actually looked it up and they say that there's an A4 standard, meaning that you can clamp a piece of paper, because a lot of needle nose pliers, when you try to clamp it, for whatever reason, you know, it doesn't hold on. So let's see what this does. And that absolutely clamps down tight enough for a piece of paper all along the jaw there. So that is kind of nice, because if you've ever had a bad pair of needle nose pliers, you know that, getting them tight is not always the easiest. But just in general, this is just a decent pair of pliers. But what I will say, maybe instead of spending $10 on these, you look and you can get a set. I actually just picked up this set that includes a pair of wire cutters, some sliding lock jaws, a smaller pair of needle nose, and a pair of linesman pliers. And I got all these together for 20 bucks at Lowe's Black Friday. So I would recommend this, but I do think you could find a better deal out there on a larger set. And we are moving back into the cutting category, cutting part 2. And the next tool up is the iGan Precision Side Cutter. I bought this one for $5.26, and that is a steal. Now, in one of my earlier videos, I showed these little Hako wire cutters that I believe were $5.47. These guys go up to 12 gauge. They're nice little side cutters, but this is basically a beefier version of that. These guys will go up to a 16 gauge wire that you can cut with it. And it's precision. You might just think, oh, just use my lineman's cutter or something like that if I'm gonna be cutting thicker wire. Say you've got something like this that is a power cable. Well, I can just cut this guy right here with it. Nice and easy. This guy, I can't even fit around the whole wire like that. And you might just say, hey, I would use a lineman's plier, but again, you can't get into those little tight details. So yeah, if you're cutting something like this, fine. But if you're having to get in there and get something where you can't get around the wire, this is perfect. Now, staying on the cutting theme, our next tool is a pair of wire strippers from W&G Global. I bought this one for $8.89, and they are wire strippers as well as crimpers. And you got all those extra little things on there for cutting bolts and looping and all that good stuff. And right off the bat, I can already tell I am going to hate these, and I am not going to recommend them. Obviously, there's some oversight as I was burning through and shopping, and that is they don't spring back open. And here's a pair of wire strippers that I have from Greenlee, and they go open. Because as soon as you strip a wire, you're gonna wanna strip the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And having to flick your hand under it, also, it's very wide. Look at the difference of how close the handles are closed on the Greenlee versus this one. I mean, that is what? That's at least a ½ inch. I am not even gonna try these, because that was a huge oversight on my behalf. And even if it did have the spring, I really don't like how wide this is. This just feels weird. When I'm cutting, especially when I'm crimping, I want to be able to tighten it down more. So yeah, I'm gonna pass on these. All right, now we're moving on to the turning tools. And while we are on tools that didn't live up to standards, I'm jumping into this next one because I have very, very low hopes for this one. And that is this 4-in-1 screwdriver keychain. So here it is, and I got this guy for $1.99. And that is the only reason that I picked this up, because first of all, I don't like to have a lot of stuff on my keys. So if you like to have a bunch of stuff, if you're a janitor, style, then maybe this is okay, but you're just not gonna be able to turn anything with any amount of torque on it with this little guy. But we have a Phillips one, we have a flathead one, and then I don't know what the measurements on these are. But I always hate it when they have these little hex nuts on there anyway, because most of the times when you find a hex nut, you're not gonna have the open space to put that on it. You need like an open-ended wrench. So something like this, very unuseful. But I did figure out one use for it that might actually come in handy. And that is if you're over at a friend's house away from your tools, and all of a sudden they have a remote control with dead batteries and they can't find the screwdriver. You can whip out your trusty dusty little keychain, and this is perfect for just taking that little screw out, still stripping it. There you go. And you can save the day with your little pocket screwdriver. And the flathead could be used to pry it open if something is stuck. So I don't know. I mean, for $2, it's, That's like the price of a Mountain Dew. You know, a 16 ouncer is more than that. So for that, and just having this somewhere just as like an emergency screwdriver, if all other screwdrivers are lost, maybe. But for replacing remote control screws and batteries, yeah, I think it works for that. Now, what good is a cheap Amazon tool list without an Amazon Basics tool? The Amazon Basics 27-piece T-handle ratchet and wrench set. All right, so I got this guy for a scant $8.68. And I thought I had put these fingerprints on the case. They're actually on the inside of the case. Don't know how I feel about that. If I'm planning on doing any, heists or whatever, maybe I should just go ahead and take an imprint of those and save those for later. So this could definitely be a return, but let's just see how it is and see maybe why somebody returned it. All right, we've got a little ratcheting here. This thing, I kind of like the feel of this. I wish it was just a little bit bigger in the hand. So if it's just locked, you've got quite a bit of backlash there. But yeah, it's got a little socket set, and oh, that's okay. So that's going to actually lock whether you want to have it in 3 different positions. So you can get down into a recessed socket, something like that, you can do that. So there's a little socket adapter right here that would go in, and the sockets would go right on the end of this. So if you needed to ratchet something, then you could turn that on to ratchet mode. It's not bad. And it's got a nice little selection of bits here. This is not bad. This is not bad. Let me just throw a little something on there just to make sure that it works in situ. I don't like that it doesn't lock. It's got a little indent on there, but for whatever reason, it doesn't actually lock. That's gonna blow it for me, honestly. I was gonna recommend this. Yeah, that's gonna be a no for me, dog. I'm out. And to round out the turning category, we've got the Lexavon Impact Socket Adapter Set. I paid $9.87 for this one. And when I first got it, I thought it was actually a pretty good deal. And then now I'm kind of seeing that maybe it's not. Because I've seen that you can get a Milwaukee set with the 1/4, 1/2, and 3/8 for like $11 with their Shockwave, which I would trust a lot more than these. But the whole idea is that you use these adapters to put sockets onto your drill. Now, I am always looking for this, and the one I would use the most is the 3/8. By the way, can I just say that I do not like the fact that they have gone from 1/4 to 1/2 to 3/8. What are we doing here? Really, what are we doing here? What? That makes no sense to me at all. But the thing that makes it an okay deal is it comes with a little magnetic bit holder as well. And basically all these will just chuck into your impact wrench, impact drill that is, and you can use them to do drill bits or sockets. And the 3/8 one is the one that I think most people would use because that gives you kind of the widest band there in the middle, whether you wanted to use that for, a O2 sensor socket or just some regular old 10mm, if you can find one. But the one thing you would not want to do is to use it with a chrome plated bit because that is not impact rated and you should not do that. So just at first blush, without stress testing these look okay, and the bit actually works pretty nicely. So I don't think it's like a smoking deal or anything. If you need that extra $10 to get free shipping or something, go ahead and add it in. But you probably pick these up for the same price or get something even better quality around the same price at your local box store. All right, now I am kind of excited about this next one in a few because we're going back to cutting again. Cutting part 3. I told you I love things that cut. And first up, we have the Fun Bro carabiner knife. I paid $9.99 for this black one, but I saw another color. I had to have it. The sprinkles. Look at this little knife. This thing, this thing screams just stick it on a kid's backpack and just let them go to town. But this one was, I think, $11 or $12. So you can get it in a boring color, or you could get this one and maybe give it to your 7-year-old. Just maybe don't let them take it to school. Definitely don't let them take it to school. But this is just a little carabiner knife, and let's open this thing up. I really also like that it kind of looks like a hawk. That is kind of fun. The blade is probably absolutely horrible. Let's see how we cut paper. Ooh, we do cut paper, so it is nice. This would be great for opening boxes, cutting little stuff. You know, it's not great in the hand necessarily, but you know, for little tiny baby hands and toddlers, this could be their great first knife. And it's got sprinkles on it, folks. I mean, I think it's more of a novelty, but it is a fun novelty. Another thing I noticed is that the carabiner doesn't open that much. It's got this huge area here, but the carabiner only opens like not even a half of an inch. That's a bummer. If you've got a son or daughter or wife or yourself that likes sprinkled donuts, this could be the best Christmas present ever. Okay, I can hear it already. I can hear it in the keyboard comments. Enough with this, Brad. What is this cupcake sprinkled knife BS? Give us some real tools that we can use for under 10 bucks. And to that I say, let's go to the next tool. And that is a PVC pipe cutter from Bates. I paid $9.98 for this one. And this is one of those tools that after you use it, you think, why have I ever done this any other way? So we're gonna see if this one works out, because if you've ever hand sawed PVC, you know, if you're anything like me, it's a big, you know, curvy, crazy line, and it takes a while, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt. So what this does is this is a ratchet cutter. Ooh. And so this is for cutting smaller PVC. So I have 1.5 inch PVC, and that is too big for this. What I can cut is 1 inch. So let's just put this in here and see how it does. Yeah, I'm not so sure about this. I mean, this blade looks really sharp. Yeah, so kind of like right in here, you can see how much this is squishing the tube. And if you were trying to make any kind of watertight connection with that, you do not want to have that all squished up. All right, I did find some Schedule 40, and I'm gonna cut it with this guy and see. I don't think this is gonna collapse at all. Oh yeah, there we go. You still have to have a little bit of finesse to make sure you get a straight cut, because that was not a straight cut. I also tried this on a little bit thicker wall of the SDR 13.5. It still had a little bit of crushing, but for the Schedule 40, this seems to be the sweet spot. So if you're gonna be using one of these, I would be using it on Schedule 40. Anything that's more lighter irrigation type stuff or low pressure, this is probably gonna be too much force and it's gonna collapse it. All right, next up in the cutting is more of a punch than a cut, but it's still gonna be a cutter. And that is the General Tools revolving punch. I bought this one for $9.08. And this is a tool I'm probably not gonna use very often, but there are definitely times that I've needed to punch holes of different sizes, and I typically just use a drill bit. But if you've ever tried to use a drill bit in leather, it does not work great. Now, it does have 6 different punch sizes, ranging from 5/64 up to 3/16. And that looks like about the size of holes that I would need. But let's just go ahead and try it out at the biggest one. I have some 8-ounce leather. So I'm assuming if the biggest one works well, then the smaller ones will obviously work as well. So let's just go right in and see what we can do. Ooh, that was nice and easy. Wow, okay. That left a pretty clean hole, a little bit of tear out on the back. Let's do a couple more. That was actually kind of fun. So it looks like it's pretty clean, but it leaves just a little bit hanging on. It's not like a full clean, you know, just pops right out. And even when it does, there's still just a little bit of tear out there. But I will say that is a much cleaner hole than what a drill bit would typically do. So I'll definitely put this in the drawer. My dad loves working with leather work, so if he comes over and asks me to help him with something, I'll have a tool to do it. And for the final category, we're going with fastening. And there is quite the eclectic bunch of tools for this one. And the first tool up in the category is a Craftsman heavy-duty staple gun. I paid $9.97 for this one. And the first thing that caught my eye was kind of this reverse grip on it. They call this the Pushfire. So, you know, normally it's like the squeeze and the handle would be on the back pointed up this way, but this one is on the front. And so you kind of, you're still squeezing it, but you are definitely pushing it more than you are squeezing it, I guess. This takes T50 staples, and I do love the look and feel of a nice full metal one. This thing is mostly plastic, which I don't like. But let's just throw some staples in here and see how it works. And I mostly use a stapler like this for stapling up plastic, Tyvek house wrap, or maybe even upholstery. So I've got a stand in here, I've got some plywood, and I've got a shop towel, which is our upholstery today. I'm gonna just staple this bad boy right here. That did a darn fine job. That was easy to push down. It sunk the staples, though these are only 1/4 inch staples. It does go up to 9/16 inch or 14 millimeter staples, but I like that. Yeah, I actually like that better than the squeezing thing in the back. It just kind of feels like it's easier to get leverage on. My biggest concern is that this whole thing is plastic and this whole piece right here could just snap off. But other than that, if you're okay with it being plastic for under 10 bucks, yeah, I think this could be a good buy. Now, fastening is not just about fasteners because everybody knows caulk and paint make you the carpenter you ain't. And who hasn't fastened some things with a caulk gun? So this is the Bates caulk gun. It is a 10-to-1 thrust ratio, and I paid $9.88 for this one. And let's try this thing out. I've got an old tube of clear caulk here, and I am sure that this thing is totally gummed up. So first of all, we'll try out the little spear here at the end. Now that tip is sharp, I gotta say. So we'll give it 1 point for a sharp tip. Now this is just a basic caulk gun, so that 10-to-1 ratio, you can get ones that are more like, I think like 17-to-1 or, you know, almost twice that. Now this is my nicer caulk gun, which is 18-to-1 thrust ratio. So higher the thrust ratio, the further that the rod is gonna go every time that you squeeze the trigger, so the faster that you can caulk things. You might just think a caulk gun is a caulk gun, and I think you're probably right, except the ones that are drip-free are the ones that I like to use, because if you're just keeping the pressure on there, then it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I've taken the top off this tube of caulk, so it is the widest opening, and I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit out, kind of brush it off, and then see if any of it drips out afterwards, so we'll know if any pressure is coming. Let's get a full pull here. I don't see any creep at all on the end of that. To me, that's the biggest sign of a good caulk gun. The pressure is fine. It laid out a nice huge bead. So yeah, just for your super basic caulk gun, I think this will do the job. And what better way to wrap up the fastening category than with the traditional fastener, a nail and hammer. And we've got the mini 8-ounce hammer from Mr. Penn. I paid $6.82 for this guy. And I bought this mostly just to have a little laugh. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it has a mustache on the top. But the way that they advertise this, there's a lot to unpack here, but basically they advertise this as a hammer for women. I don't like that. You know, it is small and petite, but like I know a lot of women builders, they don't want to use something this small. See, it feels like a little bit of sexism there, or a lot. There's just absolutely zero leverage. Obviously, you get all the force from, you know, the lever arm of the action of the hammer. I may as well just be hitting this thing with my hand, but we'll find out. I'm gonna start off with a 6-penny nail here. This thing is so tiny. I mean, when you get down to the end, you're just kind of like slapping it. All right, let's go to an 8-penny nail here. I don't think I can understate how weird this feels. I do not think this is for driving nails. I think this is maybe for little finish nails, or for like little things you're just kind of tapping around, kind of knocking some anchors into a wall. This might work. And yes, it is small and it would fit in a drawer nicely. So I do like that about it. Now, the part that really threw me for a loop was the reviews, because it's got 4.7 stars and almost 9,000 reviews. So I went in and I started reading them, and they seem a little fishy. I'll let you come up with your own judgment if you want to go over there and check out some of these reviews, because they are quite funny. But this one, I think, is representative of how most of the reviews have gone. And this one says, I'm just going to read a portion. First of all, let's talk about the hammer. It's small but mighty, kind of like a Chihuahua. And just like a Chihuahua, it has a lot of bark, or in this case, bang, for its size. I was a little skeptical at first, but this little guy has really delivered some serious pounding power. It's perfect for those small DIY projects around the house, or if you're feeling really ambitious for building a mini wooden fort for your pet hamster. I don't know how much they're paying these people to make these reviews, allegedly, but I like the style of the reviewers. Now, for me, Mr. Penn, I would not recommend buying this for your wife. So I guess you can find at least some good tools under $10. If you want to see tools under $20, I got a whole playlist queued up right there in a bunch of different stores, and I've found some really good ones too. I'm Brad. Until next time, get out there and build something awesome.